Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Becky Piper and I'm the manager of the North American Consulting Team for Spinifex IT. Today we're here to learn how Spinifex IT Easy Balance can significantly help your quest in easing payroll reconciliation stress, not only at year end, but all throughout the year. I have with me Paige Elkins. She comes to you with over 20 years of solid SAP payroll experience and is a solutions engineer for us. She will provide first an overview of how Easy Balance can assist you, and then move into a system demonstration so you can see for yourself all the ways Easy Balance streamlines and improves these important processes for your payroll teams. Before we begin, however, there's a few housekeeping items to cover. We'll be using GoToWebinar for the presentation. Since this will be a visual presentation with slides and a live demonstration, we do encourage you to utilize the web link rather than just dialing in for the audio. Should you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to type them in the questions box and we'll gather and provide answers following the demonstration directly to you. Those who missed the webinar recording today will receive a copy of the webinar and a Q&A within a few days of the live session. Finally, if you have any additional questions following the demonstration, please send those directly to info@spinifexit.com. Without further ado, let me present Paige Elkins.
Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Paige Elkins, and I am a solutions engineer here at Spinifex. I'm here today to talk to you about our payroll tax reporting product called Easy Balance. Easy Balance is implemented within your SAP payroll system and produces reports real time. By having Easy Balance sit directly in your SAP system, this means that it conforms to your payroll department standard security, and it only takes minutes to be installed by your IT team. So first off, what is Easy Balance? Well, it's basically a suite of reports specifically geared towards payroll and payroll tax auditing and validating. For example, Easy Balance includes reports that audit for undesired negative results, like for instance in tax amounts, which will result in an error when you run your US W-2s or Canadian T4s. Easy Balance reports deliver results at a high level, as well as including the ability to drill down into specific numbers to easily locate what exactly is creating an issue. Other functionality delivered by Easy Balance allows you to validate the configuration of your wage types in terms of taxability, down to the individual tax authority level. So by using Easy Balance throughout the year, you can keep on top of those things that cause grief at year end if they go unresolved. Notice too that Easy Balance includes some pre-delivered employee correspondence documents and forms. For example, we have notices to employees to validate their address and/or their social security number or social insurance number. So Easy Balance functions can be categorized under these four major topics, starting with, first off, the validation of tax-related configuration. And then secondly, we have those pre-delivered exception reports. For example, whose FICA wage multiplied by the flat rate of 0.062 does not equal the actual tax withheld? Or for Canada, employees whose province for health tax purposes does not agree with their province of employment. Third, we have reconciliation and general reporting. For example, we can give you a reconciliation between your US tax reporter results, your payroll results, and the general ledger postings. And finally, as mentioned, correspondence, like the address, social security number verification, as well as we have documents that explain US W-2 results to the employees. Now, in regards to exception and out-of-balance reporting, as I mentioned, Easy Balance does come pre-delivered with a long list of reports. Now, we've got a few shown here in the screenshot for the US. Here is one example of the type of auditing that you can use Easy Balance for. This particular new hire monitoring report allows you to find employees who have missing master data, the type of data that's going to affect paycheck results, as well as year-end tax forms. And here is a similar report specific to the Canadian employees. It quickly identifies those with missing or invalid social insurance numbers or addresses. And here are some specific tasks that EasyBalance handles in regards to tax reconciliations. So we have reports that reconcile the numbers in the US W-2 boxes. We also can reconcile your 941 data. If you're familiar with the US 941 quarterly form, you know it's at the company level, does not produce at employee detail level. Well, with our EasyBalance report, you can see that employee detail that rolled into those numbers. So if there's any kind of out of balance situation going on, you're able to find it very easily. And I mentioned before, we give you a reconciliation report that actually reconciles taxes from payroll to what's reported in US Tax Reporter to the general ledger. We give you the ability to reconcile your /101 gross dollars to the amounts that are being accumulated as taxable earnings. And as another one mentioned here is for Canada, we give you a form that reports your Canadian source deductions for the purpose of making those remittances. Here's one example. This report compares tax reporter results to your payroll cluster results to the general ledger postings. As I mentioned previously, that we're able to do that three-way recon for you. You can see circled the final two columns that actually show differences, if there are any, so that you can zero in very quickly on any kind of issues that you need to analyze more closely. And in this example, we have a report that compares wage type /101 gross results to the individual wage types that are being recorded as taxable earnings. Inconsistencies are quickly spotted and analyzed. This slide illustrates the Canadian version, whereas the next slide provides the same sort of reconciliation. And here it is for the US. So here's that US report. Notice the drill down into each individual tax authority. That's in the second column from the left. And then what I've circled over on the right are your difference columns where you can see calculations of any variances. From the master data side, you can audit for employees claiming withholding from exemption from withholding of tax. As well as those with differences in residence versus works tax authorities. For example, here is the US report that shows you who is claiming to be exempt from tax withholding. A similar report specific to Canada is included with the Canadian EasyBalance product. And finally, as mentioned, EasyBalance comes pre-delivered with many types of employee correspondence letters that you can use, as well as some really nicely formatted forms and documents. Note too that this correspondence can be made available to your employees via an ESS portal or even on mobile devices using our web reporter interface. So with that, we've finished up the slides to show you EasyBalance, and we're going to actually move into the system. So I'm going to illustrate just a few of the reports that are available to you, starting with this one for the US. It is called Wage Type Configuration for /7NN. And I'm going to run a variant for that report that I've previously saved. So here are my results. Now let's go through here and talk about what we're looking at. So wage type /7NN, the last two digits represent the tax type. So for this particular example, I'm looking at wage type /701, which is why I have an 01 in this first column. What this report does then is in the second column, it tells you what boxes from the US W-2 would include wage type /701. So for us, it is box 1, federal wages, and then box 16, state wages. The next column over actually lists individual customer wage types. So you can see here we have all the different wage types that we've requested in this variant. Then we start with a column that says Fed, followed by a column for every state, all 50 states. And the word yes just indicates whether this particular individual wage type is configured to accumulate into the /7 wage type that you're looking at. So as we can see here, let's, for example, look at wage type 1300. For federal taxation, I have the word yes. It is included in /701. And then I have under box 16, state wages, that particular wage type. Here are all the different states, and you can see it is taxable in some, but then we also have states where it is not rolled into the /701. So if you're familiar at all with what's called the tax model inside of SAP, then you realize that's what you're looking at here. We're pulling it all together, the tables that make up the tax model, pulling it all together into this really easy to read view for you, so you can very quickly analyze the configuration of your wage types in terms of their taxation. Now, I ran this particular variant looking only at /701. Thought I would do a quick version of it looking at /703 for you. So I'm going to go over here and just change the tax type that I'm interested in. And let's run this report one more time, looking for /703. So here's how my results look. I'm looking obviously at 703, which accumulates into the W-2 box 3, Social Security wages. Here again are my individual wage types. Are they configured to be accumulated into 703? Yes, they are. And of course, only the federal column is populated because this, by definition, is a federal tax. So a very nice report. I think one that you would all find very, very helpful. So next up, let's move into a different kind of validating, and that is FICA and Medicare taxes. Here in the US, very common auditing steps are to keep tabs on your FICA and Medicare taxes to make sure everything's being calculated correctly and there's no surprises at quarter end. So we've got a FICA and Medicare reconciliation report. I've got a variant already saved. We're going to run that. Now what this report does, it makes all those computations that you would expect, such as if I take the FICA or Medicare wage, multiply it by the applicable rate, am I getting the actual tax that was withheld, or is there any kind of variance there? Also, employee versus employer, when they're supposed to match, are they matching? So here's my results. You can see it's by individual employee. I have /703 wages /704, so employee, employer. Is there any difference between those two? Which, as you can see here, I don't have any differences. Here is employee /403, so what was actually withheld in their payroll results. Here is the calculation using the rate, what it should have been. Is there any difference? I do have some people here listed with differences. If I were to go all the way across the page, what you would see is we make those same comparisons for both FICA and Medicare. And then at the very end of the report, the last columns actually show you from your configuration tables the ceilings and rates that are being used. So you can, number one, validate your configuration in those tables, and number two, you can see what this report is using as it does its calculations. So a very popular report for customers to run. And what's really nice about this particular report is you can build in some levels of tolerance, because perhaps you don't want to see reported as a difference anyone who's only out by a penny, because that could just be a rounding difference. Maybe you only want to look at people that are off by more than $1. Whatever variance you're interested in, you can build that in and limit the number of people that get reported on this exception report. So I've got a variant saved out here that with some tolerance built in. That's actually a 5-cent, a nickel tolerance. So what you can see here is for each one of those difference columns, it has been configured to exclude a range. of minus 0.05 to plus 0.05. So I can have a nickel swing either way and it not be reported as a difference. So if I run this report now, let me kick it off. You're going to see, for one, all those people with zero differences are going to disappear, and we're actually only going to pick up anyone if the difference is more than a nickel. So it looks like we're getting our results. So here you go. You can see we're down to only 3 employees. You might remember those that were out the $140.41. So those are the only people being reported. So there's a nice example of some of the US validating that we can do for you in Easy Balance. We're going to switch gears and go to Canada and look at a couple examples. So I've already run a report out here called the Canada Vacation Payout Validation. I wanted to show you this one as an example. If you're familiar with Canadian payroll, you know that there are provincial requirements in terms of how much paid vacation employees must receive throughout the year, actual payments to them for vacation time. And so at year end, employers have to do somewhat of a true up comparing what was actually paid out to the employees through the year in the form of paid vacation, comparing that to the calculated requirements per their province and tenure of employment. That is all calculated and stored in terms of standard SAP processing in a table in the payroll clusters called the VC1 table. So this validation report reads the VC1 table, pulls out your results, and tells you if you have anybody that still has a balance due them at year end to, true them up for what they were supposed to receive in terms of paid vacation. So you can see when it runs, we have it rolled up at the company code level. I can expand and drill down into my employees. So I'm just looking at a couple employees on this particular run. So if I open up, there's an employee. I can see the individual payroll periods right here, the pay dates, for period, end period. Then I get into vacationable earnings. What is the percent per our configuration by law, which is a provincial requirement. Therefore, what would it be required as a payment? And we also have if company policy has a different percentage attached to it, so what would be the required payment based on company policy? Then what was actually paid out, and is there any balance therefore under those calculations? So that's an example of one of our Easy Balance Canada reports. And we have one more that I'm going to show you, and that is I want to show you an employee correspondence. So I'm going to use the Canadian tax exemption letter. If I bring that up, select my variant, I'm going to run the document. I just need to hit this button, Generate Document, and it's going to create a document for every employee in my selection. Now notice I did get this pop-up. What this pop-up is telling me is that this particular document has had configuration attached to it to automatically email the letter that gets produced to each individual employee. So every employee would get their individual letter automatically in their email inbox. So this pop-up is telling me, hey, you've got this set up to be emailed. Do you really want the emails to go out this time? Or maybe this time you're just running a test and you really don't want to produce the emails. So I'm going to go with this top radio button that actually will suppress the emails and only show the output. I will go in later and show you where those emails are set up, just to kind of give you an idea of how this works and how easy it is. So my document has produced, it's a letter. The first letter is to Mr. Ross Lannon, employee 70010. You can see we have a little verbiage that says here is what our records are showing us that you're set up as exempt from tax for these particular taxes. Obviously, we have some more text here that if this does not agree with your records, please contact us. If I use the scroll button and go to the next employee in line, You'll see that's another employee, number 70021. Here's his particular data, and so forth. Then in terms of how is this output, what does it even look like? When I was mentioning the emails, when this document was created, we configured it right here under distribution type, automated email distribution options. And then type of email further defines it and says use the employee's internet email address. And what that means is Spinifex looks at their master data, communications info type 105, what is sitting there defined as the employee's email address, and then that is what will be used to email this letter out automatically to the employees. All right, I'll close up this box. So it gives you just a little bit of a peek into the whole distribution process and what you can set up inside of EasyBalance as well. Now that does conclude what I wanted to demonstrate for you. So I do want to thank you again for joining. My name is Paige Elkins, and if you have any follow-up questions for me, please do feel free to contact me at the email address displayed on the screen. Thank you again, and have a great day.